Hello ladies and gents, I don't know what's going on, first time ever on YouTube streaming, so I'm going to wait for a potential commercial to finish and then we are going to jump right into it. Hello to the chicos, hello to the chicas, hello everybody. First ever YouTube streamerino. We'll see how we go with this. And for today, I decided to do a topic that hopefully is going to mesh well with my general YouTube activities, and that's gonna be none other than game analysis. A couple of days ago, a lovely gentleman sent me a bunch of games he played in a tournament, and he told me that he managed to smash the tournament, especially because of his ability to use my favorite chess principles. And so actually, he didn't tell me I could make a YouTube content out of this, so I feel a little bit awkward about this, but I felt that this was the ultimate way to pay my respect to our friend. And also, I thought that there was so much in that, in those 5 games that he sent me that I was desperately keen to get this out to you guys. So let's get started. Round 1. Our friend is in the black trunks. And by the way, he's 1662, and it was an under 1750 tournament. So all of you who are rated in that rating range in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, I think you are going to get a lot of stuff from this. So first game, we are in the black trunks, and my friend, at least to some degree, is very clearly, by the way, playing my chessable repertoire as the beginners 1, e4, e5 here is on the menu, as he's playing the Ulfstadt variation with b5, bishop f1, knight takes d5, and d3 was played. It is a very timid response instead of the topical bishop takes b5, which is of course best and to be favored. d3 is very timid, very passive. Now black gets the upper hand right off the bat. Bishop e7, kicking the knight in the face, knight f3, and bishop g4. Friends, kudos to the black player here, and immediately a quick note to all of you that this is how the first measure of how you know you are doing chess well is when you look at your position, and after 8 moves you have got an entire army fully developed against this, which is what we call the back rank fest. That's the first feedback to you that I'm doing pretty cool here, guys. So let's keep rolling. Knight c3 was played, knight d4. Another good way how you know you are doing well is that you're centralizing your pieces like a boss. Really, really good stuff by our friend here. h3 was played, and this is essentially an outright losing move. Here comes another theory of mine on this level and even above. Once you get put under pressure, and of course here the level of pressure varies, but still remains true that once you are under pressure, we tend to drop the ball, and white immediately plays a losing move. Bishop takes, pawn takes, knight b4, and for all intents and purposes, this game is already gonski. Bishop e3 was played. We went in for the kill with knight c2, knight a1, and I could call it off here, but I really want to show you something because I think that there is a lot to learn, even when you know, positions occur where we are completely and absolutely killing it. And that's why I'm going to carry on a little bit longer. Bishop d4, ed, knight e4, f5. Perfect moves by black. He check. Very good. Very good. Yeah, I'm fine with this too. Check, check, check. Let's even take b2 and cover a1 for a second. Knight c2. Let's save the knight then. Thank you. h4. Now, I didn't like f4 here too much, but I'm gonna let that one slide. I would have played bishop f4. But okay, takes, and this point is what I wanted to show you, and you know that I know that you are going to tell me that I'm splitting hairs here, but here our friend played g6, which is completely, like 100% unexplainable, inexcusable, mysterious, what are you doing bro type of move. And I want to point out to you this because a lot of the times I find that the natural direction of these games, when one is ahead by 7,000 kilometers but has a little bit of a loose king, is that we start playing suboptimal moves, and then eventually somehow the game just slips out of our hands. And I really want to hammer this home, because the first time you do it is usually the most important one. And so let's have a look at g6 and white was played. Well, we don't know white was played, and that's exactly the purpose of me bringing this up, because it makes no sense. Because g6 is not a threat, because let's assume that I play something completely outlandish like a5, g6, h6, and in fact the position has improved from our point of view, because there is no more pressure anymore on the h file, and in fact now we are likely going to castle this way to enhance the f file pressure. But we had no reason not to play castle here. g6 is just a terrible pass, which black got away with because we are 7,000 pieces up. But whenever you are ahead and your opponent is just not giving up, the best piece of advice I can give you is pedal to the metal. You need to finish them off by playing the best possible moves. And this is just a pass. And that's not acceptable, because very clearly our opponent is not going to resign here until we beat them. So we need to beat them, and this move is not even attempting to beat them. After this, the game went on for another 20 moves or so, but black eventually managed to convert without too many dramas. And by the way, hi to those who are following me live right now. Unfortunately, I have... yeah, I can't engage with you right now in the chat. Actually, I could, but yeah, let's focus on the lecture. So that was it. First move, first game. Very, very nice intro to a tournament. That's how you want to get started in any tournament. This is a really, really nice confidence boost onto round 2. And this is going to be an altogether different story. e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6. d4, tuck, 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 knight f6, knight c3, and here our friend took on c6, which is a big... Oh, sorry, right after knight f6 they did. Knight takes c6, which is a big no, friends. Very big no. Very important here to have a look at what... our friend says about his decision making, because it's very important to identify the mistakes. But I think that you will find that both as a coach and as an improving player, in order to eliminate a mistake, the point is not to point out the mistake. The real business is to find the reason, to find a flaw in the mindset and shift that, and then the mistake is going to be sort of the root is going to be eliminated. So what our friend said here in the study he sent to me, and it is very cryptic for my understanding, is that he says that he used to play the move order knight c3, g6, which by the way is a borderline blunder slash really bad move, like call it whatever you want. And then his comment about this is that I used to play this move order trick as black. That's not a move order trick. That's a terrible move. And it turns into a great version of the dragon. No, it doesn't. It turns into a horrid version of the dragon. And I wasn't going to allow that. So here there is a complete myth in our friend's head. And I think, managed to figure out what he was getting confused about. What he got confused about was the accelerated dragon with g6, which I still wouldn't call a great move order or anything like that. It is just a different way to try to play the dragon, and if they play c4, then we are not even getting a dragon, but I wouldn't get carried away calling it anything other than the accelerated dragon. However, he utterly and completely confused it with knight f6, knight c3, g6, which is just awful, because after takes e5, black is immediately on the back foot, having no sensible knight jumps anywhere at all. And the decision coming from it is, so this is how the dominoes fall based on one misconception. We make a whole sequence of bad decisions. So therefore we take on c6, which is also rather bad. bc was played, and now we are back in the game. Knight c3 was played, e5 was played, all good. Bishop c4. This is a really double-edged move, because it's very clearly intended to shut down d5, but we might not be able to shut it down if bishop b4 comes in. Then we might have set ourselves up for a d5 with a tempo. Just saying that in a bracket. Bishop c5, also fine. Castles. Black played the rather mysterious h6. Typical move on the 1700 level is to put out the bunny ears because bishop g5 concerns us. Quite frankly, castles, bishop g5 and d6 and this pin is really not doing too much to us. Was one way to deal with this. And the early bishop d4 is an interesting idea here. The engine really likes it. I would not call it a human move. Anyway, h6 was a bit meh, but I will let it slide. And we played king h1. And this is a typical case of when we feel like we played a genius of a game because we justify events of the game by the result of the game. And so we don't have a necessarily clear head in order to evaluate our actions and the consequences because the game result impacts our decisions greatly. I'm 100% certain, I didn't check the comments of our friend, that he was convinced that his king h1 f4 plan was absolutely fundamentally sound and the greatest way to play, which is very far from the truth. Matter of fact, I do have a YouTube video about pawn breaks where in a similar scenario I very badly condemn f4 because it leads to a position with an e isolated pawn and an e5 blockade square for black, and that's precisely what could have occurred here had black played correctly, which would have looked like something like castles f4 and bishop d4. This is the key move after which the struggle city begins, because f5 obviously allows a d5 break. That's terrible. And fe bishop takes does yield far more benefits to black than white. The only thing that white got out of this is an open f file, which for most intents and purposes is useless. On the other hand, black got a full control of the dark squares, in particular the e5 one, and white has got an ugly isolated pawn here. Now after bishop f4, I think black has multiple choices here. My favorite would be the calm and collected d6 and enter this position where again it looks like black has got the inferior pawn structure, but that's not true at all because c6 is not weak, it's not targetable, and it cancels out the knight marvelously. Plan B would be to play queen c7 or queen e7. I'm not sure which way it's better. And just take it from here. Although here take rook f5 is actually possible, so maybe that's not as great. Maybe rook e8 then. And then rook takes back. And again, the dark square control is very pesky. There's a good question here from the live viewers about what about knight e2? And the answer, I suppose, will be knight e4, knight d4 takes, and d5. And all of a sudden, again, black takes over the initiative in the center. If we drop back to d3, rook e8 or c5 even, and black is definitely in the lead. So I'm not a big fan of this f4 plan, but the way it worked out was great because our opponent, he played bishop b7, which is, yeah, very suboptimal to say the least. f4 was played, which is now correct. There's a stark difference here now because after bishop d4 takes, we have got this check. Oopsie daisies. Tactics, friends, always the tactics. And now f4 pays off beautifully. And this is why I'm saying that this is a textbook case of justifying our decisions based on the result. But in my view, f4 here was not the correct plan. And on that note, I will tell you what I would have done here for white. Knight a4 looks like a very typical plan here to kick the bishop away from this diagonal. And then play queen d3, bishop e3, and play in a more positional fashion. Although here after bishop e7, f4 now looks far more playable because black does not have the ability to build up this dark squared blockade that I showed you earlier. d5 is still possible, but I feel like with the king still in the middle, this should be good for white. Anyway, bishop b7, f4 is beaut. Absolute beaut. Takes. And bishop f4. Just a quick check. Do we have e5 here? Because that looks like the right way to me to play. e5? Yeah, I like e5 a lot more than bishop f4 because this is the move that punishes black for awkward development / king in the middle. Bishop f4 gives them myriads of choices of what to do. So let's have a look at e5 very quickly. e5, knight d5 seems to be the only legal move on the board. And now I just thought I would take, and take out everything. And I'm guessing I'm going to merge with an extra pawn. And a happy position. So yeah, e5 was definitely to be favored. This is a provocation already that they took us on f4. As soon as this happens, you go into aggro mode. And this is not aggro enough. Because this by itself does not create any threats. In fact, our threat is e5. And if that's the case, then why on earth would we not immediately go after them and play e5? Now, the funny thing here is, and this is why the engine is a terrible chess coach, is because the objective value between the two moves, or the value difference, I should rather say, is about 0.3 centipawn, right? So the engine is telling you, pretty fine. The coach is telling you that this is a terrible mistake in your mindset because you are not going after them when you should and when you can, which is the same thing. When you can, you should. And so this is where you should not work together necessarily with a engine without a coach, because the coach here immediately highlights a huge flaw in your chess, which is that you don't sense the momentum. You do not sense that this is go time. Now, the reason why the evaluation difference is so small between these two moves is because the position is A, so good, and 2, because e5 is so difficult to hold. But you are likely to repeat the same mistake, and that's exactly where the main difference kicks in between the coach and the engine. You are likely to repeat this mistake in an environment where the difference between the two moves will be not 0.3, but 3 full centipawns, and all of a sudden you go like, uh-oh, that's no bueno. So e5 was desired, e5 came, knight e8. And here came the second mistake that, again, the engine is not going to highlight, and I will every single time, because there is a mantra that I keep on saying far more times than I could ever care to count. We are in the thousands with that, probably tens of thousands, and that is that there is a very, very important dynamic to understand about center in chess, and that is that every time your opponent abandons the center like so, your natural gut instinct is to conquer the center, because that's the point of grabbing the center and kicking opponent's pieces out of it, so that then you can jump to it, into it. And since 94 is a tempo, I refuse to believe, and in fact I refuse to accept any other moves. The way how I operate is that the only better move than this is if we have a four's mate, and we don't. And so I don't care how the engine evaluates queen h5. The text, by the way, apparently 3 centipawn difference again. It's as simple as that, that if you don't play 94 here, then you are violating number 1 of very basic chess principles, and that's not gonna fly. So queen h5, yeah, get it, you should have played 94. And again, the concept is that I totally know that it makes no difference here, but in another position, that will be the difference between a win or a loss. To be fair to queen h5, it builds enormous pressure on f7, but to be even more fair to me, it would have built even more pressure after knight e4. Back to the game, queen h5, d5, takes, and here our protagonist strikes like an absolute legend. Bishop takes h6, a beautiful tactic, exposing the black king and revealing the tactics on f7. The game's over. Takes, rook f7, knight g7. It doesn't matter what black does anymore. Here I would have liked to see rook f8. I kind of don't see how this was missed, since king takes is met by mate, and the queen is hanging and it's a check, so... And here we have got mate in 2, by the way. A quite unusual motif. So, yeah, we played rook b7 check. I don't know why my engine went so slow. Yeah, something slows the system down, but that's okay. Maybe it's the stream. But because of our opponent is still dead and bad at the same time, they played king h8 here, allowing mating 1. So that was it, ladies and gentlemen. That was queen h6 Matutski. So all I'm going to say is, if you wanted to learn from this, the association here with the accelerated dragon was completely off. The decision we made based on that was completely off. And the way we played this middle game was okay, but f4 is a plan that you really need to be very careful with in this structure when there's a pawn on c6 and the black pieces are so actively placed, which is very unusual in a Sicilian setting. And so this whole f4 shebang could have backfired far more than it did in the game, which was not at all. And last but not least, the central aggro with e5 and then with knight e4 should have been played. Okay. Yeah, we are trying a YouTube stream for a change today. Next up we have, I had to enter manually all the games, and so we all start with the final position. Okay, this was a complete carnage again. This was partly, I think, my recommendation. Yeah, it was. With the black pieces as far as the opening was concerned, and white played knight d4, which is just a complete lemon. We took on e4. The description of the video tells you, Daniel, that it's 1600. It was an under 1750 over the board tournament. Queen e2, d5, very good play by black. We are already kilometers ahead. Bishop b4, great. Take. Not perfect play. This is how you play chess, ladies and gents. d4, ed, perfect. Punishing white for hanging the pawn in the center. The comment was that he tried to find the refutation, very good, and he couldn't see what was wrong with it, and therefore he went for it. Kudos to you, buddy. Takes, queen e2, d5, and black is already way ahead. Bishop b4, great. Take, great. Castles, great. Castles. And now is the time to cash in on the blunder, which castle is. Takes on c3. Takes back. Castles. Check. And we pick off the piece. The reason why I'm going to show you this, and I really want you to... Well, I didn't quite show you how the first game ended up in a win, the entirety, but I want to give you here the contrast, because it's quite compelling, that black plays perfect chess from being winning to the point of resignation, and that's an important difference between game 1 and game 3. We played bishop e6, perfect. Queen c6, check, perfect. Queen a5, perfect. Immediate aggro with the mate. a4, rook b6, perfect, separating the queen from the pawn. And Matutski. That's how you convert the piece up. Admittedly, it was a lot easier because the white king was more exposed. But nonetheless, it was very impressive. As far as the games analyzed on the stream now, it was an arbitrary decision by me to stream this content because it was a funny coincidence that this guy sent me this bunch of games, and I went through it and I found a lot of interesting and educational moments in it, so I thought I was going to stream it. No, he's not a student. Right, great win. That was round 3. Wow, we're flying through, guys. We're flying through. Yeah, okay. So, next up on the menu is going to be another game, and boy, does this have a very, very awesome lesson for you to learn from. And it's always the best thing you can do in chess as well as in life, and the number of times I told this to my daughter, man, is to learn from other people's mistakes so you don't commit them. That's one of the best things you can do in chess. So here, now you are getting a really awesome lesson. We play the Scotch. Once again, my repertoire recommendation, although I do not recommend castle. So either he's not following my beginner's repertoire here or he forgot it. Bishop e7, e5, or maybe I entered the game and he played e5 first. I would check now quick. No, unfortunately he did play castles first. Okay. Nothing wrong with castles, by the way, but I don't believe in the knight e4 line. I think that's complete equal. Like, equal in a way that you can't play for a win with white. Bishop e7, e5. Now we are all G. Note that bishop e7 masterfully killed the generic d5 counterpunch, because now takes loses a piece. So that was a big boo-boo by black. Knight g4, bishop f4, d5, bishop b5. Now here there was a very curious comment by the player that I could not really relate to be honest with you. And I'm going to look up exactly what he said because I found it very interesting. So what he did here was that he played bishop b5. And his recording, or sorry, rather his comments that he recorded on the file he sent me was that he considered ed, bishop d6, rook e1 check, king f8. And he says that this looks good, but I didn't see anything immediate. Now, two things I need to add to that, because this is a really, really interesting comment here. First is that I don't understand why he's considering king f8 instead of bishop e7, which looks much more human. And secondly, what does it mean that I don't see anything immediate? As in, I get that you don't see anything immediate, meaning immediate win, but how could we not choose this, which is a king stuck in the middle in an open position, when instead we go bishop b5 and the game goes on? Like, I get it that in the previous line you didn't see an immediate win, but surely that's still a heap better than not doing that and just casually go, yeah, bishop b5 and she will be fine. This is the type of train of thoughts that me as a coach often find very difficult to disentangle and figure out how exactly did this decision making take place. Because, oopsies, that was me pressing the wrong button. Because the only thing that you need to decide in this position after ed, bishop d6, rook e1, king f8 is how much better are we here realistically? Is it clearly winning? Is it winning? Is it just better? Or is it marginally better? Now, Laurent, that's first ever. And if I figured out how to mod you, I would make you a mod right away. But I don't know how to do that yet. So this is clearly better for white, right? So that's one that's already stored in the head, right? Somewhere up here in the brain. And then we compare it to bishop b5, which is also stored in the head somewhere, where it says it's clearly not better. Dang, dang, there is a clash and conflict. This one better, this one not better. I'm choosing this, right? Like, I just don't get how this decision was made. I really don't get it. But okay, let's move on. Bishop d7. Typical move of a certain rating range. I'm going to flip the board for this because it's worthy of demonstrating as powerfully as possible. This move makes absolutely zero sense. And if you ask the black player why he played bishop d7 here, I can guarantee you they would think that you are being silly or you're asking some absolutely ridiculous question, because of course bishop d7, because I'm pinned and the pawn is hanging on d4. And then if you ask the exact same person, okay, let's take this thought a little bit further. What will you do after bishop d7 as next move? They will tell you, oh, I will castle. Oh, okay then. So isn't castling cancelling the pin? Yeah. Is the pawn on d4 still hanging after bishop d7? Yeah. So what type of sense does bishop d7 make then? Because you want a castle which denies the pin, and we are losing the d4 pawn no matter what we do. Right? So all of a sudden, what appeared to be perfectly sensible makes absolutely no sense at all, because castles is what we want to do and we can do that. So why wouldn't we? And the doubling of the pawns is vastly irrelevant. Here, in fact, it's supporting black because it will help us in the longer run to play for c5. And you believe me when I tell you that the number of people who play in a position like this bishop d7 and convinced 120 million% that that's the best move they could play is just endless. And to talk people out of these types of moves is far harder than you would think. So yeah, bishop d7 is just no bueno. Let's go back. Rook e1 is fine. I think from memory, I didn't check, but there might have been here an elastic band tactic with knight e5. The idea being that after knight e5, these two are hanging, and if I take this, the knight takes back. That's the elastic band tactic, very commonly seen on lower level chess. And if I take on e5 instead, then after bishop b5, this is awkwardly hanging. And so this is not great for white. I don't know if this was seen. There was no comment by the players. Curiously, rook e1 does stop it. Because now, as per game, knight e5 is actually losing to knight e5, bishop e5, bishop takes, and bishop takes. And this is basically where most games would end up with a resignation, because rook is hanging and bishop f6 is winning e7. But this is where the cool part comes, guys. So let's put the seatbelts on, because what is about to come is quite mind-boggling. Rook g8, bishop f6, queen c8, check, and takes. No problem. No problems. We are a piece up. Our opponent's king is in shambles. I would say that our opponent is very, very close to resigning. I have spoken about this concept a lot already on various platforms, Chessable, but also on YouTube a lot. That in these types of positions, what you want to do is to kill the hope. Why are they still playing this game? They are piece down, their king is dead, there's nothing to play for. Why are we still here? The reason why they are here is because they see a glimmer of hope. Your job in this position is to destroy that hope. It sounds extremely cruel, but that's how it works. And so when your opponent plays queen h3, which they did, you very clearly see what their hope is. Their hope is to stir some kind of a pot on the G file. And the first thought that comes to your mind is that what is the crudest and cleanest way to shatter this hope, destroy it, completely erase it from the board? Well, all I need to do is to break the pin. Put anything on the G file is gonna hang the queen. As luck would have it, because I have a good coach who told me to start with checks, there's a check that happens to completely cut off the G file pin. Oh, but that's hanging. Okay then. Welcome to the party. No pin anymore. You take the queen and ta-da! This is the point when your opponent is going to resign, because we absolutely demolished the only dream, which was some kind of a mate trickery on the G file. The dust has settled. You had a full rook up, and said rook is already ready to pick the cherries once you completed development and covered up your back rank. Guaranteed resignation. What did we do instead? We started cherry picking. Now, admittedly, mate in one threat deals with the threat, but there was an absolute nuclear bomb dropped on us in shape of bishop c4, which admittedly by the white player was overlooked. Now, again, the irony of chess is that if you look at the evaluation of this by the engine claims that white is more winning here than would have been after bishop g7. But I, as a coach, can't care less, because you play bishop g7 and you are going to defeat Magnus Carlsen, 100 out of 100 times from this position, provided you are given more than 10 minutes each. Yep, that's it. It's 10 out of 10 you will beat Magnus Carlsen. In fact, Magnus Carlsen will resign here. You play Queen d5, Bishop c4, and you are not going to beat Magnus Carlsen 10 out of 10, irrespective of the evaluation of the position, because now it is super duper chaotic. And what you don't want when you are completely winning is chaos. That's exactly what you should be aiming for when you are dead lost, which is what black is doing here. Takes, king e8, check, back. Now here for the second time we are missing a huge opportunity, and I would call it outright blunder, no less, for not taking g8 followed by h3. That's inexcusable. Any other move you play here and I will be like, why would you do that? Why are we leaving queens on? A constant mate threat pending. Why are we tempting fate when again we can kill the game and the opponent, or rather their hopes, in such a simple fashion? Like, this is very, very impractical play. Is it bad? Not by the engine's evaluation, but it's definitely bad by any other measure. Now bishop d5 is a threat, by the way, to win the game. Check. Now we have to play a genius move like this. Wow. And by the way, by now, the evaluation, if for those of you who are obsessed with the engine, is less than what it would have been with bishop g7. Take, take. Queen back. Threatening mate here. Check. And knight d2. And the rest of the game is, yeah, was carnage. I didn't then bother entering the rest. Yeah, white is completely winning and did convert indeed in a couple of more moves. But I thought there was a very instructive lesson there for everyone. When it's winning, you need to put it away the cleanest possible way. Okay, lucky last. And again, I'm starting at the end. Ah, this was the Vienna. Right, so this is the Levy effect. Every man and his dog is playing this Queen f3 line, which, yeah, is nothing to write home about. But it's extremely popular, which is good news, because you're going to get a lot of freebies after f5, which is my recommendation in my course, which wasn't followed here, by the way. But he did say that in his comments that he forgot his theory, which is f5. So knight c6 was played. Funnily enough, it's actually a playable move, because after knight here, I think knight d4 is good. Quite funny move. And we're threatening that and that. That's cool. That's cool. Okay, bishop b5 was played. Takes 6. I mean, a lot is said about this queen f3 thing, that white is, excuse me, black is basically just winging it and still comes out on top like this. Check, check, and happy days. Black is already better. Takes was played, takes back was played. Now the two bishops will reign supreme. And in this case, we are going to discuss a bit of endgame technique. By the way, why am I wearing this? I don't know. I'm used to that when I stream, I need to hear things. 92, bishop a6, goodie. Knight d4, king d7, goodie. Check. Okay, whatever. Takes. Okay, so I have no idea what white is doing here, but admittedly it's a difficult endgame to play. The development of the bishop is particularly problematic. That's the reason why they played a4, because they want to play bishop a3. But it just looks all kinds of bad. Rook b8 is nasty. It's basically a clever idea with anticipating bishop a3, which of course loses a piece with takes rook b1. King f2 was played, bishop c5, I guess. Okay, king u3. Whoa, what? Hello, e5, game over. Okay, that's the first really, really bad tactical blunder in this game. Typical measure, by the way, of lower rated players, that they always somehow notice their opponent's threats before their own. But more importantly, they value and prioritize the opponent's threats way higher than their own. This is probably, in a nutshell, one of the greatest downfalls of at least 50% of players below 2,000. And that is that they constantly figure out ways to defend themselves instead of finding ways of aggression. This is a really crude case because e5 just puts the game away. But we are like king e4, okay, I need to defend that. Funnily enough, he defends that with a tactic. Bishop a3, tuck tuck. Rook f8, great chess here. Really good chess. d3, takes. Bishop d5, great. Rook c1. Okay, e5 good, back, check. Yeah, this part of the game is played really well. There, very good. We are threatening now penetration. Rook e1, check. Yep. Okay, what did I just tell you? Opponent's threats, our threats. We see this, and we value the e5 pawn greater than grabbing a pawn followed by total destruction on the second rank. Right? When I say it like that, it still seems so silly. Right? Like you would think that no one would do that. Like everyone would take this and then double up on the second. And yet that's precisely what I told you, that 50% of players who are prone to mistakes will do stuff like this. Ooh, my pawn is hanging. Who cares? Like, how is the e5 pawn any relevant in the grand scheme of things when I'm killing white with the second rank threats, mate threats? And by the way, this is a heap more valuable pawn than that, because by eliminating this, we are creating chances of a passed pawn here. Whereas e5 is neither here nor there. Totally irrelevant pawn. So even if we are just talking about pawns, which is wrong, by the way, because it's all about piece activity. But even if we are talking about pawns, taking this for this is a huge gain for black. But it is a complete tunnel vision of, oh my god, my pawn is hanging, I must defend. Yeah, very, very big. It's not the mistake that I have the problem, but the mentality behind it is really concerning. c4, check, and now the rooks have been disconnected, which is unfortunate. Takes. So this is a far inferior version of what it could have been. Rook b3, a6. Oh, again, so damn typical. He notices that rook b7 is a problem. And he goes like, ooh, I need to remove the pawn from hanging, where in fact he could have eliminated the entire problem. And also this pawn would take a square away from the knight and would fix all pawns on white. Note the huge difference between the two moves in terms of their accomplishments. a6, nothing on the plus side, nothing at all, zero, we passed. We played no move of value at all. c5 fixes the pawns on white, denies knight b4, denies rook b7. Allows the king to access the queen side, extends the bishop's diagonal. Two pawn moves, a world of a difference. Yeah, Daniel, you are telling me that for a low rating perspective, the kinds of pawn rates are difficult to evaluate because your constant is whether you are allowing counterplay. Yes, you are allowing counterplay. Here you are allowing black a whole heap of counterplay, which is mate threats and hanging knight. I would argue that I don't care how low rated you are, there is no possible way that you can see into this counterplay for white. I mean, I can't even give a check with the white pieces here or attack anything, right? And I have a hanging knight, I have a hanging pawn, and I have a hanging mate. There's absolutely no way that any level of player would evaluate this incorrectly. The mistake is not born out of misevaluating the activity here. The mistake is born out of not thinking and just going like, oh, it's hanging, I must defend. That's it. That's it. Rook f1 wins a piece. I don't think so. I can block back, no? Oh, maybe actually. Wait. Nah, I can just go here. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, of course, rook e1 is no good because then I've got check, check, and then pick off the rook. But knight e1 holds. So no, it doesn't quite win a piece. It's more accurate to go here and start threatening with 7,000 things at once. Yeah. Okay, moving on. So we did this instead. a6 was also bad. Yeah, see, with the huge difference, we traded off our most active piece for the worst defender on the board. No, it doesn't work, buddy. Like, trust me when I tell you that it doesn't work. Take, rook check, knight e1, not rook f1, knight e1, bishop check, I go here. Anyway, let's move on with the game. So we traded off, knight b4. Rook b8 is fine. I would have loved to see his c5. Typical again. Pawn hangs. Let's defend. Indirect defense, which credit for, by the way. But c5, knight a6, and the knight is trapped, right? That's it. Game over. So again, we identify the problem, and we have an aggressive way to meet it. We have a very passive one. Another passive, well, that I can't call passive, but it's too responsive. What I'm saying is we're not using cunning here. We don't realize how terrible this is. Like, very often we don't make that step that we go from the opponent has a threat to realizing that, actually, hang on, that's a horrible move. I should allow it. In fact, I should encourage that to happen. Like so. That being said, rook b8 is also nice because it creates a pin, and by now our friend had an idea in his head to trade rooks. Blundered the check, admittedly, by the way. But it's fine because king d7 is okay. Rook b2, a5, there. Now, from here on out, hello, funny, I was not happy with the conversion and how it went down, but let's have a look at it one by one. h5, I'm happy with. Knight e3. What does this move tell us that White wants to do? The way I see it is that we are completely killing this endgame. Completely killing it. We are 2 pawns up. We have got bishop versus knight in a position where pawns are located on both wings. And we have got a marvelous opportunity here to create a pass pawn. And here we go. Now we just need to go about... I think the best approach to play an endgame like this is to constantly ask yourself, how can it go wrong? Because the how can it go right kind of scenarios are endless. So as long as we eliminate the how can it go wrong, we're good. My concern here is this. And it's not even a well-founded concern because the king is within the square of the pawn. The famous theory that Magnus Carlsen claims they've never heard. And I always claim that that's complete bollocks. And so g5, h4 is fine. But then I switch into kill the dream mode as per game 3. And I go like, hang on, he wants knight c4. Is that the only thing he can do? That's yes and yes. So I go like, okay, what do you do now, buddy? Right? Trade is out of the question because that's a pawn ending with 7,000 pawns up. Otherwise, I go up, 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 up. See ya. Again, a very likely point when our opponent would resign. Because we just killed the dream. And that's it. Nothing more to add. Instead, we play bishop f3, which for the life of me, I don't understand what that does. These are the typical moves that you see a lot in lower rated games. And you go like, why did you do that? And although I'm pretty sure that there is an explanation coming, but when you look at it, you go like, hang on a second, what does that do? Like, it doesn't seem to respond to what white is doing. And it doesn't seem to be particularly productive either. Perhaps it was an idea of just clearing the way. Let's give them that. Right? I'm gonna roll with that. So, okay, knight c4. But now we realize that we had first walked into this fork. Rather suboptimal. Now, at this point, there's a beautiful motif I must show you, and that is bishop d5. The idea, which is so very well known from studies and stuff, is that knight a5 creates this correlation between knight and bishop, which is called domination, when the knight has no squares to go to that the bishop doesn't cover, barring b7. But if I didn't have the pawn, you would understand immediately that the bishop kills all squares the knight can go to. And so now, we just go up, 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 up and win. Leon Garcia, what do we do against 1d4? We wait until the 22nd of May, which is a couple of days away, when my beginner's d4, d5 repertoire is going to be released on Chessable, and you will be a happy man. That's what you do. So yeah, bishop d5 would have been a very mature decision. Again, realizing that the e5 pawn is vastly irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant, because after takes king e6, we just roll, 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 roll. And the best case scenario is that they have to sack the knight for it, after which they are just a piece down for nothing. But we play d4, BTF. Okay, king c3, fine. Bishop e2. 95. Bishop e2, by the way, is a cute move, because takes, takes, takes is a distant pass pawn theory easy win. So kudos for finding that. 95 check. King e6 takes, takes, goody. Takes. King d5, slightly odd. I don't understand why we're not rolling. In this position, g5 was playable. I think there is a variation here where we queen at the same time. But this is... okay, I understand why one wouldn't want to enter this. But this is just... actually, this is not necessarily that clear of a win. So let's go back a bit. Okay, you know what? I can get behind king d5. Because... it again cuts off the knight, it hangs the pawn, brings the king closer. Fine. Let's do that. Knight b3. King c6. Okay. g5, yep. Check. Ah, that was it. That was the last point where I was surprised by what I saw. And that was that we took here on c5, allowing knight e6 check. That's what I wanted to show you. This was the last thing. I don't understand why we don't play king d5. Denying knight e6 and allowing us to roll, or kicking the knight and then take c5, slip, when we lose neither this nor that. That was it. And I don't think I read a comment about this, but I will double check if he said anything. Quite funny that if you hear the noise, you know what I'm doing in terms of where I am in website business, but whatever. Yeah, no comment whatsoever offered. Like king c5 walks into knight e6, right? Which is a bit awkward. It slows things down. So why wouldn't we go here? And the only thing you need to check is that this pawn is not running in, because the bishop covers it with ease. Right? So yeah, last big mistake is to take a capture granted And again, this is the obsession with pawns of, whoa, I want my opponent's pawns, where the reality is that this pawn is perfectly relevant in the terms of how we want to win this win condition. Also YouTube video of mine. Do I need to take this to win? No. Do I need this on the board to win? Yeah. So why would I give it up? Actually, in the game, King b6 was played, which I thought was quite clever, because King b4 was met with take, take, knight here, and this is already a draw. So King b6 was actually clever, and now the conversion became quite tedious, because, yeah, now at least the pawns are blockaded on dark squares. So here there is a lot of work to be done, but from memory, I may not have entered the rest of it. Yeah, so eventually what happened was that our friend managed to play c5 and then just get the king to the other side and eat this pawn and promote the pawn here. So that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes the tournament of our friend who on Discord goes by the name of Argumentative. And he had a blast of a tournament. I mean, he won all his 5 games and absolutely killed the field. And as you could see, it's debatable, I suppose, but I highlighted a lot of points where his game could easily be improved and taken to the next level or next levels, depending on how quick he's jumping said ladder and skill sets. But yeah, I hope you guys liked it. I'm gonna call it off now because I'm a bit reluctant to upload more to YouTube than an hour. I know it was a very short stream for today, but I wanted to raise some awareness to the fact that YouTube streams are on, and perhaps we are going to do different times and all that stuff. But yeah, this looks to me like a potential new avenue that we might want to explore for later on. You can read it, Julian, in the description of the stream, but I told you that it was a 1750 and below tournament. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me today live. This obviously is going to be posted as a YouTube video as well. So we'll see how we go. Now I'm going to go and try to make a thumbnail for it. I hope you enjoyed this little show. I also stream on Twitch for those of you who don't know, but I guess you do. Check out all my socials and I will see you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.